You already know what time it is. Welcome back into the NFL with AJL and the Double A, episode 84. We're live on a Wednesday. You could have been anywhere else in the world, but you're right here tapped in with us on the show. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Y'all make sure to like and share that stream wherever you're watching. Get in the comments as well. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. We are on Twitch, and we've got an amazing show for you guys tonight. Like we said, go ahead and like and share that stream wherever you're watching. Subscribe on YouTube to help us out. Hit the bell so you never miss a post. Tell a friend, tell a coworker, tell a family member about the show that you think would enjoy it. Of course, that QR code in the corner of the screen is every bit of social media and podcast content at the NFL with AJL, especially on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, LinkedIn. If you can't find us, you simply aren't looking hard enough. And we've got a loaded show tonight. Like we've said, Travis Hunter winning the Heisman over Ashton, Jeanty. We're going to be predicting the first round of the college football playoffs. Mike Vick and Bill Belichick are heading to college football. And then we got the back half of the show with just me talking the NFL, talking Saints, talking Josh Allen MVP, and talking much more in the world of the NFL as well. As always, before we get started in the show, man, my brother Alan, the other half of the Double A. How you doing tonight, man? It's good seeing you the other day.
Feeling good, man. Ready to hop into these topics, man. It's going to be a great weekend in college football. Can't wait to cover it.
Yes, it is. We are going for the first time ever going to have home playoff games in college football. Right? Real quick, how do you feel about a whiteout in Penn State? How do you feel about Ohio State hosting Tennessee this weekend in Columbus? I mean, crazy, man. Absolutely nuts.
In the shoe, in the cold, man. It's going to be dope. It's the first for everything, you know, and it's going to be electric. I feel like this weekend's going to be a new testament, a new statement to college football.
Yeah, the pageantry, I think, is going to go to an all-time higher level. And
the whiteout game, too, not to disrespect the Nittany Lions. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I think the whiteout, either that or being in Columbus are going to be the two best environments of the weekend. Texas has something to say as well, being out there in Austin, no doubt. But let's jump into the first topic of the show, man, as we're going to react to Travis Hunter winning, the Heisman Trophy over Ashton, Jeanty, who arguably just had the best college football running back season we've ever seen with 2,500 yards, 29 rushing touchdowns. Absolutely insane year for the Boise State Broncos. We know they're the number 4 seed in this first 12-team college football playoff bracket. So give me some of your thoughts on your initial reaction to Travis Hunter winning the Heisman Trophy over Ashton Jeanty, who really kind of felt like the best and most dominant player in college football this year, and the production spoke for itself.
You're right. You're absolutely right. So no shocker, right? Travis Hunter was the best player, like two-way player. This is the first Heisman candidacy we've seen a two-way player in.
Right.
So, you know, no shocker there. But also, let's be real for just a minute. Any other season, no Travis Hunter, Ashton Jeanty wins this Heisman Trophy because he had better numbers than Mark Ingram in 2009 when he beat the Texas Longhorns in that national championship.
Yep.
You know, and let's face it, Mark Ingram, Derrick Henry, two deserving running backs that deserve that award. Ashton Jeanty had better numbers than both of them.
Right.
And also,
it wasn't hard to see.
I think he rivaled Barry Sanders.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Barry did it in...
Barry's the GOAT, right?
Right. Barry did it in 11. And then if you add Barry's kind of postseason, I guess, for what it was back then in college football, he had about 3,000 yards. And Ashton Jeanty is probably going to, barring that they go past the first round bye as status, they're probably going to run, he's probably going to get to that 3,000 yard mark or close to it. Yeah, it's 500 yards. But in 3 games with the way he's been playing, he could definitely do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
He could definitely do it.
And Barry Sanders is a GOAT, right? He's the best Oklahoma State Cowboy of all time. It's not contested. Stillwater holds him in a high regard. Ashton Jeanty, don't hang your head, man.
Right.
You've won an award, I think, after the
Maxwell
CFB awards. Yeah, he won the Maxwell Award.
And the Doak Walker, which, of course.
Exactly. The Doak Walker is really important as well. So don't hang your head, man.
Right.
We were all expecting Travis Hunter in the last 3 weeks to win this award.
Yeah.
but no Travis Hunter, Ashton Jeanty wins this
Right.
landslide victory over Dylan
Right.
Gabriel and co. Because
Right.
this is the first running back we've seen in a long time that of this caliber.
Mm-hmm.
This is up there with Barry Sanders, Bo Jackson, Mark
Reggie
Ingram,
Bush,
Reggie
Ricky
Bush,
Williams, Eddie George.
Eddie George. Yes, we're going to talk about him later. I'm going to bring him up later, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, that's great.
And Derrick Henry, King Henry, man. Like,
Yeah.
these are some of the best running backs in modern history, to my mind.
Yep.
And
Yep.
Ashton Jeanty, right up there with him.
100%.
Don't hang your head, bro. Love what you did. Love what you did
Right.
for our sport.
Right. And before I take off, do you think Ashton Jeanty was robbed?
It's really hard to say. All right, so I'm going to go 50-50 here. Part of me thinks he was robbed. Part of me thinks that Travis Hunter deserved the award because he's a two-way player.
Yeah.
And I don't think like the masses do, where it's like, oh, Coach Prime coached him, so he's the GOAT. No, this man was winning awards last year with Colorado, right? In 2023. He was already winning college football awards then, and he's won them again in 2024. So I'm not going to negate anything Travis Hunter has done on the field. But with that being said, it could have went either way, and I'd have been perfectly happy. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yeah, very good takes there, man. I'll start from kind of the bottom and then go to the top. I do feel like Ashton Jeanty was robbed. It came down to, the Heisman by definition is the most outstanding player in college football. And when you look at what Ashton Jeanty did all year, to me, he was the most outstanding player in college football. 2,497 rushing yards, 29 touchdowns. And when you compare that to the past Heisman running back winners of Derrick Henry, like you said, who had less rushing yards and one less rushing touchdown, when you look at his numbers comparing with Reggie Bush, who is argued as the best college football player of all time. We talked about Ricky Williams a little bit just now in comparison. We talked about the Eddie Georges. You can kind of hold him in the same Barry Sanders conversation.
Right.
When you look at, I literally have it pulled up right here. Ashton Jeanty through 11 games had 7.5 yards a carry, 2,062 yards, and 27 touchdowns. That was over Reggie, that was over Mark Ingram, and that was over Derrick Henry. So, like you said, if Travis Hunter does not exist, or if is not, just even playing this two-way, then this is Ashton's award, which feels kind of weird to say, right? Because it's like, oh, Adam, that if Travis Hunter didn't exist and Ashton wins. Of course I am. But I do believe that this award, it came down to best, most productive player to unprecedented. And now snaps played is really being used as an argument for Travis Hunter, which I totally understand. But what running back wants to come out and run for 2,500 yards and almost 30 touchdowns and not win the Heisman?
Can I add
9 out of the last 11 Heisman winning running backs also won the Maxwell, which Ashton Jeanty won. Now, you have to be a little careful because you have, the different sets of voters. You have the Maxwell, and then I think there's another award, which is like best player in college football. Then you have the Nagurski Award and there's another defensive player award. So, you got to be a little careful, right? But if you would have told me, Adam, there's going to be a running back this year, 2,500 yards, 30 touchdowns, I'm like, he's getting Heisman votes, if not winning it. And I said at the beginning of the year, Ashton will have to run for 2K and 20 tubs to do it. And he blew it out of the water and still didn't get it. So I think he was robbed. I'm not taking anything away from Travis. Yeah. Travis was top 5 in catches, yards, touchdowns in the Power 4. He had an amazing passer rating allowed. He had an amazing coverage grade. He was almost on an island by himself.
Yes.
So I love all of that. But it's a little weird because he gets best offensive player in college football, but he's not a finalist for the Thorpe.
Yeah.
But he wins the Heisman, but he doesn't win the Maxwell. It's weird when you're dealing with a unicorn like a Travis Hunter, like a Shohei Ohtani in baseball, but yeah, just kind of my 2 cents on it.
Caveat there.
Yeah, go ahead, man. Go ahead.
So, look, we know that the Heisman Trophy has been a quarterback award for the better part of a decade outside of Devontae Smith.
Yeah. And Devontae earned it like hell that year.
And we had 2 non-quarterbacks in the hunt this year. 1 and 2 being Travis Hunter, and Ashton Jeanty. That alone, I'm happy. But
Yeah.
9 out of 10 times, I agree with you there. And the only reason I think, and I know I'm gonna get roasted, that Travis Hunter got it was the media exposure and the prowess that he got
Hell
this season
yes.
because of fucking excuse me,
That's okay,
because
bro.
of Coach Prime. No
Right.
disrespect to Coach Prime, one of the best DBs to ever play the game. He was right when he said, "Oh, players earned their numbers back then." I know you
Right.
probably saw that interview. If
Yep.
you had a single digit number, you were a goat, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, he was number 21, in the league, but number 2 in college.
Right.
Right. So players earn their numbers.
Right.
And, Deion was a great corner.
Yep.
And
Guys, I see we got 12 of y'all on YouTube talking Travis Hunter winning the Heisman currently. I'm sure all 12 of you are not subscribed. Y'all make sure to go to the channel, subscribe.
yeah,
Please like this
subscribe.
video. Please share. Get in the comments. I'm sure we got some new viewers in there. Appreciate y'all for showing us love.
Right. And that's really all I have to say about it, outside of the media prowess, because let's face it, Colorado's been heavily covered ever since Coach Prime took,
For sure.
the reins at Colorado.
For sure.
And wherever he goes next. And because I think he'll go to another FBS school later on,
Right.
whether it's next season or in a couple seasons from now, he'll take the reins somewhere else.
Right.
Or he could be an analyst somewhere in the NFL.
Right. See, I
but
see Prime being like a college guy for,
yeah, I hope so.
you know what I mean? Colorado hasn't been anything really for the last however long Prime comes in, has these guys flirting with a possible 4 or 12 seed in the CFP playoff if they take
Right.
care of business down the stretch in the Big 12.
And the Nolan me loves Prime. Even though he
For
disrespected
sure.
us a little bit on the public stand, he's like, "Oh, I graduated from HBCU." He's like,
Right.
"Bobby Bowden made you into the player you are."
Mm-hmm.
Accept that. Acknowledge that.
Yep.
Outside of that, I have no problem with Coach Prime.
Right.
But
Yeah, me neither.
anyways,
I like Prime a lot.
Ashton Jeanty, that is my favorite player this season.
Yeah.
Travis Hunter, I'm not saying he doesn't deserve the award.
Right.
But he was, in a way, you can make a case. He was robbed. Absolutely.
Right. Right. I mean, when you come in and you compete with you're mentioned in the name of the last 3 running back Heisman winners, one of which is considered the greatest college football player of all time.
Yeah.
And because a gentleman who was pretty good at playing both sides of the ball into positions that he did, I don't necessarily think he was elite at either side, respectfully.
I don't think he's Charles
don't know
Woodson.
if he should have. I don't know if he should have really won the Biletnikoff, but the wide receiver field isn't all that, heavy this year. Maybe you could have gave it to a guy like T-Mac or maybe to a guy like Nick Nash out of San Jose State, which we've seen some rumblings about. But
Right,
I just, I feel for Ashton Jeanty not being able to bring this one home.
My heart
I'm not taking anything away from Travis. I think he's earned it. I'm excited to see him potentially go, top 3, maybe not, maybe number 1 in the draft next year, and just really see kind of the hype of, is he a wide receiver? Is he a corner? Is an NFL team going to let him entertain really both positions? I don't think so. I think he can primarily be one and then have packages for the other position, but we'll see how that goes. A lot of people are saying corner. Then he'll be like a 3rd string receiver kind of thing, because it's easier to find packages for a receiver than it is necessarily for a corner. But that'll be more to be desired as the NFL draft comes up in the next 92.
We're doing good, Mari. How you doing, man?
Appreciate you jumping in the comments, man. What's up, Mari? Good to see you. I'm doing good. Thank you so much for jumping in the comments. Drop your favorite team, man. If you're a fan of football or if you're just a fan of podcasts in general, we'd like to get to know you a little better. Breaking news, man. A couple of days ago, Bill Belichick is going to be a first-time ever college football head coach at the University of North Carolina. He will be leading the Tar Heels in the 2025 college football season and on. We got a 72-year-old Bill Belichick who felt like he might have stepped back into the NFL, chasing Don Shula's all-time winningest record, now going to be recruiting and politicking for 18 to potentially 25-year-olds. What's your take on this, man? This is kind of odd. I can't lie. When I first heard the rumors come out, I was like, okay, slow media day. These guys got to bring something out of the woodworks. But now it's official. Bill Belichick is headed to CFB.
Love it. The Seattle Seahawks fan over here, man. Love that. Niner gang over here.
Yes,
Bang
yes.
bang.
We'll hit you with those bracket predictions in just a second. I'd love to honor
That's
that
my
moment.
NFC team, by the way. Nah, Bill Belichick, man, Darth Vader in college football. Man's gonna make a pipeline to the NFL, like he said he was. I think he can handle the NIL very well because he was able to handle NFL salary contracts very well. And
Yeah,
this is the
that's a
game
good
is
point.
the game is evolving. It's
Yeah,
becoming more like the NFL each day.
right.
So, oh, you're not going to promise me this amount of money, or I'm going to jump ship. I'm going to jump the transfer portal. I'm going to go over to here where they value me a little bit more.
Right.
And Belichick's going to be like, look, do you want to play for the Tar Heels or not? Do you want to
Yeah.
go to the NFL or not?
I
That's
don't even know if he'll be saying that much with his
Yeah, exactly.
short at the words
Exactly.
approach.
But we all know if you play for Bill, like I was telling my brother this earlier. I was like, you could be from Boo-Foo, Wisconsin and be a no-name white star quarterback, and he's gonna make you into a key playmaker.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's just how Bill was. And
Mm-hmm.
at 72, he's like every bit of 52. He's dating these young girls, man. He's,
Crazy. You went there.
right. Exactly. I did go there. I love it, man. I love it. It's good
Uh,
for the sport. It's really good. I always wondered, like, what would Bill Belichick do in college? Now we're here.
yeah.
And
Seems like we get an exchange of Saban
yeah,
going out and Bill coming in.
exactly.
This is
Exactly. Bill
freaking
Parcells'
interesting.
tree is coming to fruition, right? And they are a basketball school, Maury. I agree, man. But you know what? Because Mac Brown, once a former coach before, when he took over this time, couldn't do anything with the Tar Heels. I think Belichick can.
Yeah.
And I know he solidified a job for his son. I know that. That's in the contract. But look, this is Darth Vader we're talking about. 6 Super Bowls, right?
Second most winningest head coach of all
And
time.
second most winningest head coach next to Don Shula, I think, right?
Mm-hmm. God rest his
So,
soul.
God rest his soul. Undefeated season Super Bowl, right?
Yep.
So, with that being said, I think he's not going to have any problem recruiting
Yeah.
because of who he is.
Yeah.
Players know.
Right.
They grew up watching Tom Brady play for the Patriots. They know.
Right. Right.
So, I think it's gonna be great, and in the ACC, it's gonna bring a lot of limelight to the
Mm-hmm.
ACC with him
Mm-hmm.
being here. Do I think he's widely successful in his first season? No. Um, but I think he can get involved in the transfer portal and recruit both at the same time, which is detrimental to a program in this day and time. Um, he could probably have a playoff appearance within 2 or 3 years.
Very possible.
Very possible.
I think he would really have to be reaching for the stars there and nail 2 or 3
Right.
straight recruiting classes,
But
get
the
a
mind
Heisman
alone
contender at quarterback potentially. Right.
what sticks in my head is that one play with Cam Newton. He's like, "Cam, do you think that was a penalty?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I'm gonna throw a challenge on it." You know what I mean? Because,
Yeah.
Bill is just that guy. He knows the game inside and out. He would call Tom Brady in on days off, like, "Hey, look at this film between, like, the Giants and the Packers. Totally different conference, totally different everything. Just like,
Right.
let's look at film. Let's break this down. Oh, you see what he did here." I
Yep.
love that mind of Bill Belichick, and I think he's going to be okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to let
I
you have
agree.
the floor, though.
I agree with you on the mindset part. I think what Bill brings to the table in terms of the history of coaching, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, it feels like, I mean, definitely 20, 30 plus years in the
Yeah, he
league,
learned
but
under Corso and
somewhere
all
around
them.
those 40, 50 years, definitely that he's been coaching at, any type of football, let alone at the professional level, and now stepping to the college level to be a head coach in his later years. And just like I was saying, and like you said, he's definitely going to bring a lot to the table. He's clearly a leader of men. He knows how to motivate people. He clearly was able to work with Brady and engineer 6 Super Bowls. Mari, stick around to the end of the college segment because we're actually going over the entire first round. So I'll give you kind of our playoff bracket predictions there. Do I think Bill, this year's playoff will be which team is more healthy? Yeah, totally agree. That's like football in general, right? Do I think Bill can handle the NIL and the transfer portal and the developing of players? That's where I think it's going to be a problem here for Bill Belichick, and I'll tell you why. If you look at Bill's last few years with the New England Patriots, when the league really started to become offensive, when it really started to be, I mean, it's always dependent on you being able to hit in the draft, right? But when we really saw the new era of the NFL coming around, we see the penalties really favoring quarterbacks and offenses more. Defenses seem like they're kind of shying away. Bill Belichick was not able to draft well. He was not able to be a good drafter at all. Now, yes, he had the likes of Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski and a couple of other great defensive players that came through in those Edelman, of course, those legendary 2000s Patriots teams that had won multiple Super Bowls. But with him not being able to draft well, what's the equivalent at Bill Belichick at 72 years old in a much newer era of football, which is now college football, because there is no NIL necessarily in NFL. Like, you're going to get paid a check because you're in the NFL. That's not the thing for everyone in college football. There is no, I just want to go play for this championship contender in the NFL. That is prominent in college football. NFL players are kind of, they're not completely developed, but they're more developed in the league. That's why they got drafted than these college players are. So it's polar opposites here for Bill Belichick. What's the equivalent of drafting in the NFL? Recruiting. Do I think some players will want to play for Bill Belichick? Yes, but if you're asking me, do you want to go play for a 45-year-old coach in college football or a 72-year-old veteran that's won 6 Super Bowls? It might be a hard decision, but I feel like my younger character would possibly lean towards the younger coach, who I feel like would resonate with more of the younger players and overall just have that winning kind of mindset and I guess mantra or leadership over the young locker room, because I just don't think that Bill at 72 years old is going to do well groveling, complaining, politicking, advocating, recruiting, 18 to potentially 25-year-olds. And it's unprecedented territory for him, of course. So it's going to be, we're just kind of speculating hard here, and it's going to be, what is he able actually to do? But I think the NIL and the transfer portal are going to give Bill Belichick a hell of a time, because we just saw a most recent grade in Nick Saban in the same week as Bill, ironically, step away from this sport. And now we're asking Bill, who's never dealt with players this young at this much of a capacity. Exactly. With the transfer portal, with NIL, I'm just nervous about him actually being able to stick and resonate with the younger culture. I'm not saying that he can't do it, but the league clearly moved away from Bill in his later years in the Patriots. And no disrespect to Bill, but there's a reason he didn't get a head coaching interview in this offseason, Alan. I'm just saying.
No, just saying. You're right.
Bill Belichick was an unemployed NFL head coach at the start of this year. And that's not to knock him, because we know what Bill Belichick is capable of. And anybody watching this sport of the National Football League knows that as well. But he didn't get an interview this year.
The Falcons had their head coach in mind when they were having all those interviews. They knew they wanted Raheem Morris, but they entertained Belichick. And if everything would have went right and the numbers would have went right, I think we could have saw Belichick coach the Falcons. But I knew deep down Raheem Morris was going to be the guy, because he had been there before.
Yep.
And Arthur Blank's going to take the cheap route if he can.
Yep.
No disrespect to Arthur Blank. I think he's a swell human being. But,
Right. I take that back. That felt wrong saying it. Atlanta did actually interview Belichick twice. And then he also was in the running to be a DC for either the Niners or the Rams. So I take that back. But again,
he'd be lethal as the DC for the Niners.
Absolutely disgusting. I think if Bill Belichick wanted to be a DC anywhere in the NFL, it would be absolutely lethal, and anybody would be silly to not be inclined to entertain that. But yeah, my biggest concern later in his coaching career, wasn't able to draft extremely well. Is he going to be able to recruit? Can he deal with NIL? Can he deal with the transfer portal? That's just all question marks that as of right now, I am not necessarily sure about. And when you look at, we haven't even talked about, Alan, Bill Belichick just went to coach at a blue blood college basketball school.
Mm-hmm.
He did not go to a premier college football program. Though? I'm not necessarily sure 100%, but maybe a point that would kind of aid to what you're asking there. Jeff Saturday went to UNC. He's a reputable player. Lawrence Taylor, the greatest D player of all time, of course, at UNC. Julius Peppers, Algie Crumpler went here. But this is a blue blood basketball school with the Kansases and the Dukes and the Kentuckys of the world. So not many modern players, of course. Can't believe I forgot that. Not that I forgot, it just wasn't on the top of the head.
From North Carolina.
That's right. Not many modern players outside of Drake May and De'Ami Brown got drafted from here. So you're looking at a school who's had multiple multi-year gaps over the
Ironic.
last
Drake
3
Mays with the
decades.
Patriots now.
Right, exactly. You've got what's it called? Gerard Mayo drafted him.
Yeah.
So now you got Bill Belichick, who has not been a head coach in college football, dealing with this new age of college football, going to a blue blood basketball school who has multiple multi-year gaps over the last 30 years of this school not even being in the top 25. So it's going to be a lift. I'd be shocked. I would be shocked if
Him and
UNC
Saban are good
is
friends,
playing
though.
for a playoff spot. Yeah, absolutely. But you got to remember, Saban stepped out of this also.
He sure did. He sure did because of the NIL.
Mm-hmm.
We know this.
Mm-hmm.
We're not naive.
Right. Man, the Bills look good this year, but the main question is, can Josh Allen not make mistakes and turn the ball over, and can they overcome the Chiefs? Yes,
that's the
they'll
question.
be able to overcome the Chiefs, and Josh Allen is on a tear this year. 38 touchdowns, 5 turnovers, 1 fumble, no lost fumbles. Falcons benching Kirk Cousins and bringing in Penix Jr. I can't wait to see what he has to bring. Yeah, Maury, I'm telling you, hang in over the whole show, please, man. I appreciate your comments. I'm talking Michael Penix later on. We're predicting those playoff brackets later on, at least the first round. And a lot of the questions that you're asking, we're going to have a whole segment on it. So I want us to be able to really serve the questions that you're asking and kind of just not answer them one off in the middle of the topics, which we clearly still will. But stick around, man. There's incentives for it excuse me, for sure. So it's going to be interesting to see Bill Belichick at UNC. I'm excited to see what it brings. And, I think nonetheless, their ratings and viewership are going to be up.
Did you hear what Tom and Jules thought about him coaching? They're like, no way, not Bill. Go look after the show. Go look up Tom and Julian Edelman on what Bill's and Rob Gronkowski on what Edelman's going to do in college football. It was like months ago.
Heard
before that. All this, UNC thing.
Right.
It's like, oh no, Edelman or no, Belichick could not do college football.
Right. It's going to be interesting.
Hey, that's his own player saying that. So
right. I mean, because they know him. They know Bill. They work very closely with Bill.
Yeah.
And they know
and probably they won Super Bowls with Bill.
Right. And they probably know a little bit in a way of what's going to what he's going to be up against, what's going to come about in college football. 44-year-old Mike Vick is going to be a head coach at HBCU Norfolk State Spartans Football University as their 19th head coach. Norfolk State's about 20 miles from where Michael Vick actually grew up in Virginia.
Newport News.
This came out of the woodworks like crazy. Adam Schefter possibly said that Sacramento State was going to be in the chasing for Mike Vick. Apparently, they had about $20 million in NIL money. They were building a new stadium. So it seemed like all of this was starting to come together, of course, for a great California college football university. But now, again, we've got the 44-year-old Michael Vick, who has never been a coach before as far as the public eye knows. Norfolk State's 19th head coach. What are your thoughts on this, man?
I'm excited because not only is Michael Vick my second favorite quarterback of all time, but he's finally getting a head coaching job. And the reason why I think it could be good at a small-time school starting out, Eddie George.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned him previously, so did you.
Yep.
He did very well.
Yep.
In college football, his first few seasons as a college football head coach.
I think he just went 9-4.
9-4, yeah.
9-5, maybe with Tennessee State.
Exactly. And look, man, he's a great offensive mind. He has a great knowledge on how an offense should work and should click, right? Because we all saw Michael Vick in his prime. He would make nothing out of nothing, or he'd make something out of nothing. Excuse me. The pocket would collapse. The slant route go wrong, and he run for 20 yards. That was
First
Michael
quarterback
Vick.
to ever rush for 1,000.
Yeah, exactly. That was Michael Vick. And then, by the way, I'm going to be on my own 20. I'm going to throw it 70 yards, and
on
it's
a
going
rope.
to hit the receiver on a rope. Yeah, exactly. I could throw the ball out of the stadium. So I'm eager to see what he could do, not only as like say a quarterbacks coach. Like if he would have got a quarterbacks coach job at like a major university, like so let's say Virginia Tech, his alma mater, I'd have been like,
Mhm.
oh yes, absolutely.
Right.
But him as a head coach at a small school, I think this is a step for him because he knows the game
Right.
analytically, and
Right.
he can break down offenses in his head. We saw him playing, Tim Tebow and NCAA 25 on the controller. Like he knew playbooks and schemes and everything. It's like, okay, let's see what he has to offer. And I'm excited, man. I love Michael Vick. I know the dog thing and whatnot, and people are still
Right.
salty about that, but I think he more than paid his penance for it.
Yeah, he's past that, man.
He's past all that. That's in
I
his
mean, he he
hindsight.
he
That's
he
in his
paid
rear
back
view.
part of his contract to the Falcons. He served his time in
Exactly.
jail. He was
Exactly.
out of the league for a few years. I mean,
Right.
that's behind
And
him
then
for
he
sure.
went to the Eagles and did that 70-yard bomb I was talking about on Monday Night Football.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So there's a reason Michael Vick is my number 2 quarterback of all time, and it's that right there.
Yep. Yep.
His knowledge, and my Knowles beat him in a national championship in 1999.
Yep.
So that's one of the best quarterbacks I've ever seen,
Right. Uh,
and I think he'll be a phenomenal head coach for Norfolk State, and it's right in his backyard. He's from
Yep.
Newport News,
That's
you
right.
know. So love it. I love it for Michael, and hats off to him.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it for Mike Vick as well, man. I mean, even when this news came out of the woodworks, I was like, I think this is, really good for Mike Vick. It gives him a chance to just stay in the game of football and really take his knowledge to that further level. Clearly, it's something that he desired to do 20 minutes from where he grew up in Virginia. So it's right in his backyard. And
Right.
the fact that Mike Vick
He's a
has
Hokie
never
for
really
life.
that's right, 100%. And the fact that Mike Vick has never really coached football, he served as a coaching intern for the Chiefs under Andy Reid, but then he left the team after training camp, became an NFL analyst for Fox, and he's been
He
there ever
worked for the
since.
Falcons in the practice camp, didn't he?
He might have, but I know he's never been in this type of role. Is kind of what I'm getting at. He
It's a good
was named
first
the
step.
OC for sure. For sure. He was named the OC for the Atlanta Legends, which was the arena football team for Atlanta back in 2018, but he never actually fulfilled or even was in that role. Of course, Norfolk State, they fired their coach, Dawson Odoms, in November after they went
Like
4-8.
Virginians call it
Um,
Norfolk.
Norfolk. I love
That's
it.
how Virginians call it. Yeah.
Yeah, got the accent in there for sure. The HBCU plays in the MEAC, the Mid Eastern Athletic Conference, MEAC. They have made one appearance in the FCS playoffs, but they lost in the first round to Old Dominion back in 2011. So it is uncharted, territory for Michael Vick. But when you ask the same question that we did a bit, with Bill Belichick about can Vick politic, can he advocate, can he recruit his way to, some sort of success, which I feel like Bill can, considering what UNC's been. I think Vic can do the same thing as well, albeit, yes, it is an HBCU, so we know that not all of the necessarily premier athletes of the country go there. And I'm not looking to get controversial or anything in that conversation. It's just a fact. Michael Vick is going to have his work cut out for him. I think him being at this HBCU is going to give him a real opportunity to be able to speak to these players in a different way, because a lot of people are out here asking, can Michael Vick possibly be the next Deion Sanders in college football in terms of coaching? And I'm not going to go
I
that
think
far because there's only one Prime, and clearly Prime is still doing
right.
his thing, but he started at
Well,
Jackson
Falcons.
State. Right. Started at Jackson State, did his thing with Shador, did his thing with Travis. They follow him to Colorado. They have a chance to play for the Big 12 chip and get in the playoffs, and Travis Hunter wins the Heisman, with Shador Sanders also getting potential votes as well before the finalists came out, of course. And
Right.
Shador looked great in
Yeah,
his,
he did.
years at Colorado,
Yeah.
especially in his second year. I
Shiloh
mean,
too.
35 touchdowns. Yeah, Shiloh as well. Obviously Trav looked really good. So Mike Vick has this opportunity to potentially follow in these Deion Sanders
He has
footsteps. And I think
impact
he
over
can
young
even
players.
use very, very much so. I think he can use this to springboard into higher levels of coaching, whether that's going to the NFL or whether it's staying in college. And I'm excited to see what Vic does with it. I think he could come out and definitely get more than 4 wins in his first year. And, being in
Oh
his
yeah.
backyard, being at an HBCU, being with a team that needs some new guidance and some new light. I think it's going to be a pretty decent rendition for Mike, no doubt.
I love it, man. I couldn't be more, like I said, I couldn't be more happy for him.
Right. Right. I'm glad that he got it, man. I'm glad that he got it. It's going to be interesting to see how a guy like Michael Vick is able to really adjust to college football, because with him not being in a coaching aspect, he's going to have that, kind of hump of, all
Growing
right,
pains.
right, I've got to learn how to lead these guys. Like, yes, he was a former quarterback, which is great, maybe a little
Like Ed
different
Reed in
than.
high school. Remember that?
Right, right. And you think about Eddie George, it's like, okay, he's a running back, but did he really have that, leader of men kind of role in the locker room? And I fully believe that he did, because he was Eddie George. But then you look at Mike Vick, who was a quarterback, who had to be that type of leader for the team. Now he's going to a bigger role to be a leader of literally your entire team, your offense, your defense, your special teams, your coaching staff. So
Right.
it's going to be nice to see what Vic punches in at. Mari, hope you're still hanging with us here, man, as we're giving you our first round college football playoff predictions. We've got Clemson at Texas. Texas is favored by an astronomical 11.5 points, which I think Vegas is a little crazy on. A double-digit underdog has never won in the CFP. They are a whopping 0-8. What's your prediction? What are you foreseeing in Clemson at Texas, which will be a playoff game in Austin?
At the minimum, I would give Texas a 6.5 point advantage in Vegas odds.
Right.
Let's just
Right.
say, for the sake of argument, 7.
Right. They are, you get 3 points for being at home.
Right, exactly. I think the Longhorns win in this one, but not as by a big of a margin as, say, Vegas would think.
Right.
Because Clemson really did come to play against SMU.
Yeah, they
SMU
did.
was caught with their pants down. I
Yeah, they were.
arguably think, I think they were the better team than Clemson, but I think Clemson came to play and prepared a little bit better
Yeah.
than SMU did. I think
Right.
SMU walked in and was like, I think we're going to win this. We don't have to try as hard. And in the third quarter, they're like, oh snap, oh snap, oh snap. We got to get prepared here. We got to catch up. We got to catch up. And it was too little, too late.
Yep.
And because Clemson's not that team you want to sleep on.
Nope.
If you come in there ill prepared for them, that air raid offense is going to wreak havoc on you. It is. It just is. Because Dabo Swinney is that head coach. He's got 2 national titles under his belt. He's been in the playoffs like 6, 7 times.
This
You
is the
know what I'm
7th time
saying?
in the CFP. Yep.
Exactly.
7 times in 10
So
years.
the guy's a guru when it comes to the ACC and when it comes to the CFP in general. So he's not to be undermined and underestimated, but I still see Texas getting the victory here because they've had the greater tests this season, coming close to Georgia a couple of times,
Twice.
2 times, 15-30 the first, and then the second, by what was it?
22 to
3.
19 in
Yeah,
overtime.
exactly in overtime. So they sniffed it and they just couldn't quite grab it. So they're hungry, they're mad, right? They're gonna get it. It's a question of when. And I think Texas wins this by a margin between 7 and 14 points. I think Clemson does get thumped in the first round. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if they move to the second round.
Right.
But that's where I feel like they're stopped in their tracks. But my gut's telling me Texas victory.
Yeah. Yeah, same here. Texas victory as well. I think the 11.5 point line is pretty astronomical. I would give Texas maybe a 6 or a 7 point line, maybe even 5 or 6 as well, if we're really getting to the nitty gritty about betting and involving Vegas in the decisions. But yeah, I agree with you. I just think Texas has looked better overall this year. I don't think either team has been too extremely tested. Of course, Clemson against SMU, and then they did play South Carolina, and then of course you have Texas, who has played Georgia twice, but ever since they played Georgia the first time, this team has struggled with the likes of, Arkansas, Vanderbilt. They escaped from Kentucky with a 14 or a 17 point win, which I know as a Georgia fan, I can't say anything. We won by 1 in Kentucky on the road at night on a Saturday, which was a tough game. All thing. Right. against all things considered. But I think when you take a look at this game, Texas's defense, who's second in points and yards, they're first in defensive pass yards per game, and then they're 7th in takeaways per game on their defense, versus Clemson's offense, who is 17th in points and 13th in yards. I think that's going to be a really big matchup here. Of course, they're playing in Austin, so that's going to be a major aspect of
Arch
this
Manning
game as
is
well.
nice, Mari. Yes, he is.
Yeah, Arch is very nice. And I hope that Arch
He's like
is
Peyton
going to
Eli
get
mind.
literally. I hope that Arch
Got
has
that
more
dumb Manning jog
snaps.
too.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does. I hope Arch has more snaps in this game than he did in Georgia, because he had 2 snaps in the last game against Georgia. One where he didn't even touch the ball because he was a decoy, and then the second one which he got stopped in the backfield.
Correct.
But yes, I agree with you, Mari. Both of us taking Texas. Arch Manning looks very nice. I don't know if Arch will play in this game though. You have to ask the question of
He
how
won't.
far does Sarkisian possibly let Quinn Ewers go in this do or die game in the first round at home in the
Depends on
playoffs
how many picks he
before you
throws.
consider Arch, right? How is the game going? How is Quinn playing? But Quinn, who's been about half as effective in the red zone this year since his oblique injury, and then you have him playing against, Cade Klubnik as well, who's got almost 4,000 total yards,
He's
38
got an arm.
touchdowns. Yeah, surprisingly enough, Cade Klubnik is looking very, very good this year. 38 total touchdowns is not
May
something
play on
that
Sunday.
Right, that you can scoff at. Clemson, I thought, was tested kind of big time towards the end of the year. South Carolina, SMU were close games, but Texas still leaves kind of much to be desired in that competitive play because of their first and second matchup against Georgia. But they struggled, since their first matchup against Georgia, which they struggled in. They struggled in the, kind of the second game against Georgia as well, even though both of them were not very big losses. The close win against Vandy, Arkansas, Texas A&M, close win to Kentucky as well. Now, with all that being said, Clemson has won 18 of their last 19 games in December while being coached by Dabo Swinney, and then Texas is 12-1 in their last 13 home games, with the only loss, of course, being to Georgia a couple months ago in October. I'm going to take Texas to win as well by probably about, I don't know, I'd say 7 to 10 points, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was in the ballpark of 3 to 7. We'll have Texas moving on again. 11.5
Right.
point favorites in the first round is kind of crazy. I want to know what Vegas is thinking there. We've got the Tennessee Volunteers traveling to Columbus
My
to take on the
favorite
Ohio
matchup.
State Buckeyes. Say again.
My favorite matchup of the weekend.
Yeah. This matchup is going to be absolutely
So
great.
fire.
I'm very excited. I think Indiana and even Notre Dame could be a good one too. Ohio State favored by 7.5 points at home in Columbus. Tell me what you think about this one.
So beforehand, when we were talking in text, when we were going to project our best 12 teams ranked 1 to 12, I had Tennessee above Ohio State, and the reason was
Wow. Can't knock you though.
they played Georgia.
Yeah.
Ohio State has not played anybody like Georgia this year. Not saying they because Oregon's goated, right? Boise State took them for everything they had. Penn State put up a good fight. Ohio State put up a really good fight.
Yeah.
But Georgia, right? Tennessee played Georgia and was like 17 to 34, wasn't it? Or something like that.
34-17,
Something along the line. Right. Tennessee plays in the SEC. They're used to this crap, right?
Yep.
They're used to strong run game, run first offense. They're used to really good passing offense too. So they train their DBs to pick balls off. So, and the fact that Josh Heupel, an national championship winning head coach, not as a head coach but as a player, against my Knowles, I'll admit that, with the Oklahoma Sooners. This guy knows offenses very well. He's got a high football IQ. He's coached his Volunteers very well this season. I don't like Tennessee at all because, obviously we lost that 98 national championship. But nonetheless, the Vols have been kind of an underdog in the SEC all year, but they've been in the hunt. And I think they can get it done in the shoe. It's a hard place to play, but Michigan, has managed to beat them 4 years in a row. So with that being said, I think Tennessee might not have any problem. I think it might come within 3, like 3 to 7 points margin. It's going to be close, but I think Tennessee can get it done because they're a strong SEC school. And I think they got something to prove, man. I think they got a chip on their shoulder. Nico's a great quarterback. Dylan Sampson at running back, man. If they feed him the ball early on, they could get a rhythm going. they could take it away.
Mm-hmm.
They
Dylan
could chip
Sampson
at it.
and Nico.
Dynamic
Dylan
duo.
Sampson, right. I think those guys are really going to be kind of the deciding factors in this one if Tennessee is really going to want to have a shot again with being 7.5 point underdogs, and like you said, Tennessee facing some good matchups this year. Now, let's not discount Ohio State, of course, playing
No,
Penn State.
absolutely not. Absolutely not.
And of course playing the best team in the nation in Oregon as well, the only undefeated team, the number 1 seed in this entire playoff dance. But so Ohio State's had some tests as well, but Tennessee facing their toughest matchup all year. Of course, the next best one was Georgia when they played them in Athens, and then they played Alabama in Knoxville as well. And then you look at the defense that they're playing in Ohio.
Cold.
No, it does not. You look at the fact that Ohio State is the best defense in college football. They're first in yards and they're first in points, and they're going to prepare for Dylan Sampson to have a day, which Dylan Sampson, more times than not, does have a day with the Tennessee Volunteers. They run the ball 60% of the time, which is 11th in the country, and they run for 226 yards per game, which is 10th in the country as well. And Dylan Sampson will be playing on Sundays. He will be one of those bell cow backs.
That's how the SEC does it.
Yep, 100%. And Dylan Sampson is going to be a major factor in this game. Will Ohio State be able to put 6, 7 in the box, 8 in the box if it's needed, and basically ask Nico Iamaleava to win the game on his arm, to put the Tennessee Volunteers on his shoulders and go win this playoff football game for them? Because Ohio State is pissed about how they played against Michigan, okay?
Of course
they were 3+ touchdown favorites, or was it 20.5 points? Excuse me. Yes. So we'll just say they were 3 touchdown favorites. And they couldn't beat an unranked Michigan who looks bad in the middle of a quarterback dilemma with a first-year new head coach, with everything being in Ohio State's favor. I mean, we talked about it here on the show. It was very, very ugly. So Nico's going to have to step up, make some big-time plays at critical moments against this defense for Tennessee to have a chance at winning this game, because Tennessee only passes the football 40% of the time. That's the 10th lowest in the country. So they're telling you they don't want Nico airing it out. Even if he's able, which he's not necessarily the best at, Dylan Sampson is their bread and butter. And they're in the bottom third of the sport in sacks given up offensively as well. So Tennessee's up against some things in this game. I mean, let's not be confused about that as well. He says Ohio State wins 27-17. Emory, what's up, man?
I like the hot take, man. I love it.
Yeah. I think Ohio State will come away victorious as well. Emory, just a second, man. I'm actually going to be getting to NFL here in the second half of the show, but I want to answer that comment as well. What's it called? And then you also have, Tennessee. They're very undisciplined. They're the 3rd worst in the country in penalties with 8.5 penalties a game. So if you want to round it up to 9, essentially. But Tennessee's defense, like Ohio State's, is elite. They are top 10. Tennessee is in points and yards per game, yards per play, and 3rd and 4th down conversion defensively as well. So it is definitely something that Tennessee has to their favor. Emory says, do y'all only talk college? If not, I'm a diehard Falcons fan, which is very frustrating at times. So what do y'all think about the quarterback change and sitting $100 million you gave guaranteed? I'm getting to that actually in the last topic of the show, as much as I hate to say. So if you can stick around, great. If not, make sure to catch me on the YouTube channel, man. I will be posting that Michael Penix starting over Kirk Cousins as a clip if you don't catch it live. I'm going to take Ohio State to win this one. I don't know to the tune of a score, but I think it's going to be another one where Ohio State wins from about, 3 to maybe 10 points. I think this could be a very defensive showdown. I do like the offense of Ohio State better than Tennessee's, because I don't necessarily trust Nico as much on the road against this defense, the best in the country, to be able to pull out. I think
my faith in the SEC and my faith in Georgia is what's biased me on this one.
Yeah, and that's okay. If Tennessee comes away and wins this game, I'm not shocked. Because the entire country has gotten their chisel and stone out to take note of how Michigan beat Ohio State. And Tennessee's going to come for that exact same game plan. There's no question about it. SMU at Penn State. Penn State is 8.5-point favorites. This is the 3rd ever meeting for the schools. Each team with a win, and then there was a tie in this showdown as well. A Happy Valley whiteout noon playoff game. Let me know how you're feeling about this one, Alan.
I think this is a truly neutral football game here, if I'm being really honest, because let's look at the way the teams have played this season in conference play, right? I don't think SMU has faced anybody like an Ohio State this year, but Penn
BYU
State
and Clemson has been their hardest ones. and they
Right.
lost both of them.
BYU, they lost. Clemson, they lost. SMU is a great football team. They've blown people out of the water, and they've, just hung in there all season. Their first inaugural year in a major conference in the ACC. And they're up for the chip. Nothing to be despised. Rhett Lashley, fantastic head coach, right? Now, here's the thing. James Franklin and Penn State, they have a problem with big games. We know this. Now, they did muster up a really good hurrah, if you will, against Oregon, who beat Ohio State by like a few points. I think maybe one or two earlier in the year. Most viewed matchup of the year, I would say. Ohio State and Oregon. That was my favorite game of this year. One of them.
Right.
Oregon's been the best team consistently all year. Penn State played very good against them. Drew Allar is getting better every game he plays. I think Penn State takes the victory in this one because of the dismal display that SMU put on in the Clemson matchup. They were caught with their pants down. They were this good team all season, and then you get a 9-3 team on your slate.
Right.
And all of a sudden you freeze up? What is this? In the ACC championship of all games, this is the time to show out.
Right.
And not disrespecting Clemson. They've been dominant for a decade outside of my Knowles, right? Jameis Winston and last year being the two, right? Listen, man. I think Penn State walks away with this one clean.
Yeah.
Very clean. Because as much as I love what SMU has put on display in the ACC in their first year, as much as I love the team camaraderie with the Mustangs, I just don't think it's enough to get past the likes of the Penn State. Because it's a home game, because it's a whiteout game, because it's the, it means
first round
more.
Of the playoffs. Yep.
It's the first round of the playoffs. They're pissed about how they handled Ohio State. They're pissed about how they handled Oregon. Drew Allar's got something to prove. That guy's going to play on Sundays. Believe me, I think so.
Really?
I really think he could.
Wow.
I really think he could.
Yeah.
Because he just gets better week to week,
Yeah.
And I got the Penn State by 7-14.
Yeah.
Between 7 and 14.
I'll be taking Penn State to win this one as well. I think the fact that it's a Happy Valley whiteout playoff game just says everything for the Nittany Lions here. Penn State's here to stay after, as well. They've 100% earned my respect after the way that they played Oregon, because I had said a few weeks ago that they were boring. They were overrated. I wasn't really caring for what James Franklin and Drew Aller was doing. And, yes, they've got nice players like Abdul Carter and Nick Singleton, no question about it. But after they lose close to Oregon, putting on the fireworks show, I just thought that was a really great show of what they're capable of, especially with the OC and Andy Kotelnicki and how it's going to carry them through the playoffs. And SMU made a great comeback in the ACC championship game as well against Clemson, showing they've got the offense and the speed to compete when it's needed, even though that they should be able to pull that out on all aspects with the number 8 offense in the country. Excuse me, at 37 points per game. But when you look at SMU's schedule, when you talk about them not really being tested or playing anybody this year, 6 of their 8 ACC games were against teams who were at or below 500 in conference play versus Penn State, played Ohio State, played Oregon in the Big Ten championship, and actually was able to hold their own. Versus SMU, had to make a comeback on a Clemson versus a game that, SMU was that top 10 team. And then the fact that, again, 6 of their 8 conference games were against teams who were at or below 500 in conference play. So they didn't play a whole lot of reputable teams this year.
Penn SMU was projected to smoke too.
Yep.
In the playoff brackets, remember?
Yep. Yes, they were. Penn Penn State's defense, top 8 in yards and points per game, along with yards per play as well. And they're a great rushing offense with over 5 yards per carry and over 200 rush yards per game as well. Abdul Carter, who I thought it was kind of crazy that he wasn't able to lock up either Defensive Player of the Year awards, who has a great amount of pressures, sacks, 10 sacks actually. Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year, double digit tackles for loss as well. And then you have Nick Singleton, who has about 1,100 all-purpose yards, 13 touchdowns. He's a great weapon out of the backfield and at the wide receiver position potentially for the Nittany Lions as well. I think Carter and Singleton are two players to really watch in this game. But unfortunately, SMU is undisciplined like Tennessee as well. They're bottom 15 in penalties and penalty yards per game. Now, when you look at Kevin Jennings, their quarterback, who can be speedy, can be dynamic. He had some great plays in the championship game against Clemson. He does have 10 turnovers in his last 6 games, and SMU is 0-2 versus top 25s this year, albeit it is BYU and Clemson. That still does matter for them. So again, Penn State's home field advantage. It could possibly be cold, if not snowing, the day before. It's going to be insanely loud to disrupt SMU's rhythm, and they don't lose games that they're supposed to win. I know that sounds kind of weird because James Franklin hasn't been able to win the big games. Most of the time, though, they haven't really been expected to win those because of how they played in them over the years and in recent memories. I think this is a game that Penn State will win. They're supposed to win. They should win, and they're going to take away the victory here from SMU by the tune of, I think, about 17 to 14 points as well. Last prediction here before we get out of the college segment and into the NFL part of the show. We've got Indiana at Notre Dame. Notre Dame favored by 7 points. It's the battle of Indianapolis college football superiority. The last time they played was in 1991. How do you feel about Indiana at Notre Dame to round out the first round of the CFP?
So this is a matchup we don't see very often, and I wish we did. I really wish we did, because Indiana and Notre Dame would be I feel like that'd be a great rivalry game at the end of the year to kick it off, kind of like a Tennessee Vanderbilt, a Georgia Tech, an Auburn Alabama, Ohio State Michigan, Florida State, a great rivalry to cap off the season. I feel like that would be one of but rest assured, I think it's going to be a really great matchup because I really like Curtis Rourke at quarterback. I think he's a really good quarterback. But I think Notre Dame gets this one done because the reason why, are they playing in South Bend?
Yeah, they're playing in Notre Dame.
Okay, they're playing in South Bend, Indiana. That's a hard place to play on its own. Touchdown Jesus says it all. Right? So, listen, Notre Dame dropped one game this year, and it was against a bad opponent. Let's be realistic. Northern Illinois
team.
I bet dude was like, coach was like, hey, never again. We're not doing this again.
Right.
And they've been just tight knit ever since. And they've won games convincingly ever since. They've been one of the most consistent teams all season since that loss. Notre Dame's going to win 2 scores, I think. Because Indiana, like I said, they dropped. My whole prediction with Indiana was going to be how they performed in the Ohio State game. And they underperformed by my standard.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't perform as well as Nebraska against Ohio State. And we covered that about how Nebraska came close to being Ohio State.
Because they shut down Ohio State's run game.
Exactly. They were able to establish that early on.
Yep.
It's like, oh, they're going to play the run game. Okay, let's cap that real quick. And they did. Indiana was insufficient. It's like, oh, the only way we know how to respond is through quarterback play and air yards.
Yep.
And it did not prove successful for them.
Right.
So that's the only reason why I say Indiana loses this matchup. Now, I hope I'm wrong because I'm not a Notre Dame fan by any means. I think they're one of the teams alongside Oklahoma, Ohio State, Alabama, who get overblown every year in the college rankings, AP and power.
Right.
And coaches poll. every year. It's like you see them in the top 10. It's like they haven't done anything. I'm right there with them. But as right now, sitting where I'm sitting, Notre Dame's going to beat them by 14 easily because they're just the better team.
Yeah.
And really are. Indiana's Cinderella story is going to come to an end. And I love what Signetti has done with Indiana. I know he's a proven winner, and I think he might even get better in years to come. But as of this year, is it Marcus Shannon that is the coach of Notre Dame?
Marcus Freeman.
Marcus Freeman, excuse me. Marcus Freeman has got his Irish where they need to be, and they could be in the potential hunt. Not necessarily win the national championship. They could be in the hunt for a national championship.
Right.
If they continue to get improved week to week. So with that being said, Notre Dame wins.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on a Notre Dame win. I feel like I might be leaning towards a coin flip on this game because, as much as Indiana looked bad against Michigan, albeit it was a win, and then they looked even worse in that bad loss to Ohio State, they're waiting to make up for that. They are waiting to get back on national television, just like in the Ohio State game or in the Michigan game, and really show that they're able to play to a higher level. Because I knew they were going to lose to Ohio State because the way they played against Michigan. And even if they didn't play Michigan that way, I didn't expect them to come out and beat Ohio State. So now they have the chance to make up for it. Indiana, quietly enough, has the number 1 rushing defense in the country. But here's the context to it. There's only one team that rushed for more than 120 yards against Indiana, which is a great stat, right? But 7 of those teams that they played didn't average more than 120 yards rushing for the season. You look at Jeremiah Love.
Margin.
Yep. You look at Jeremiah Love, 1,200 yards, 17 touchdowns, and then the running back Price as well. They're going to have something to say about that for sure. And when you look at the rushing offenses that Indiana stood up against with that number 1 rushing defense, 109, in ranks of 134 teams in the country, 109, 100, 125, 87, 114, 128, 102, 84, 116, 57, 105. So damn near everybody that they faced was in the bottom 100 or bottom 40 of the country in terms of rushing yards per game. So Indiana, yes, they were the best rushing defense in the country, but again, that 105th strength of schedule is going to have something to say about that when you provide context.
Absolutely right.
And I know they're itching, again, to look better than they did against Michigan or Ohio State. I want them to look better than that. I think that they could come out and possibly win this game if they do look better than that. Now, Notre Dame comes in with an elite defense as well, ranked 3rd in the country in terms of points per game, and they have a very nice rushing attack as well. But the rush defenses that Notre Dame played all year were mediocre to bad. The best one was ranked 37th. And then their last game, they led up 35 points and over 500 yards to a bad USC team whose quarterback just entered the transfer portal. And Lincoln Riley we're kind of wondering what's going on with the University of Southern California now. I don't think they're too far gone. Obviously, Miller Moss is the one that's in the transfer portal, and Jordan Mayava, I think, is what his name is.
Yeah.
He's the one quarterbacking now for USC. But
how far along does Lincoln Riley follow suit? Is what I want to know.
Right, 100%, which we hate to say, but it's very true. It's very true. I think Indiana really has to work on protecting Curtis Rourke, their quarterback from Notre Dame's pass rush. If you look in the Ohio State game, if you look in the Michigan game, he was rattled. They were getting to him. They were getting him off his spot. They were having him hitch a couple times, and they were able to, really get him off of his premier game. Now, it could come down to a Riley Leonard versus Curtis Rourke showdown through the air, into which then it's like, I feel like I'd flip a coin between Riley Leonard and Curtis Rourke. Yes, we haven't necessarily seen that Notre Dame passing offense come along this year as much as we'd like to, but we've still seen good play out of both of these teams. Again, it's in Indianapolis, it's in Notre Dame, so it's going to be great to see.
I feel like
this is a pick 'em, man. I feel like this is a pick 'em, so I'm going to take Notre Dame at home. They're favored by 7, but I think this could be a 1 to 3 point ball game potentially.
I've seen Riley Leonard under the lights at Doak Campbell when Florida State is obviously at their best with a Jordan Travis healthy.
Yep.
And Riley Leonard was making me scared.
Yeah.
Biting my fingernails.
Yeah.
I'm watching it
with
live.
Duke?
Yes.
Or Kentucky? Duke.
Duke.
Duke. Got you.
And with Texas A&M's head coach now.
Right.
And I'm just like,
Mike Elko.
yeah, Mike Elko. I'm just like,
Yep.
they might
Yeah.
have us, and then they don't because some miracle stuff happens. But
Right.
that alone has got me bought into Riley Leonard as a quarterback.
Right. As it should. As it should. I think Riley could have looked a little better this year too, but that's neither.
Absolutely. That's neither here nor there.
Right. Neither here nor there. All right, man. I'm gonna let you jump out of the show so I can hit this sponsor break and tackle the
Absolutely,
NFL
man.
topics. Appreciate you jumping in as always. I love you, bro. I'll be in touch, and I'll have
Absolutely.
you in on the next college show as always, man.
Hope my Titans and Niners look better next season than they have this year.
Yeah, I know, right? I think they could for sure. Niners looking injury riddled as ever, it feels like, and then just kind of not being able to hit the stride. Yeah, and then Tennessee is just something else to be desired, I'd say.
We need a quarterback.
For sure. Thought Will Levis.
Come on, Dylan Gabriel. Come here.
I know. It looked like Will Levis was possibly going to be that sneaky answer, but turns out it wasn't. And then D-Hop got out of the room. Derrick Henry left last season. So all is just kind of crazy. But all right, man. I'm going to let you pop out of here, and the folks and I will see you on the next show, brother.
All right, man. See you. Good show.
You, thank you. You too, man. All right, everybody, going to hit this sponsor break of the NFL with AJL. Emery, Mari, I hope you're still tapped in with me on the show because that Michael Penix, Kirk Cousins topic is coming. This is episode 84, almost at 82 of the NFL with AJL. That was just the AA, of course, with my brother Alan Spradlin, where we go over college football every single week. Please make sure to like and share the stream wherever you may be watching. Subscribe on YouTube. Please hit the bell so you never miss a post as well. That'll give you every bit of YouTube content that we put out there. Of course, the social media, the QR code there will give you every bit of social media and podcast content. If you can't find us, you're simply not looking hard enough. And as always, we're sponsored by Buy and Sell with AJL for all your worldwide professional real estate needs, whether you're looking to buy a home, sell a home, or invest in real estate. Buy and Sell with AJL is the real estate company that you want to be working with, looking forward to working with, looking for, however you want to put it. You can check out their exclusive newsletter. You can get on their monthly value emails. You can get on their monthly neighborhood market report. You can even start attending their local monthly real estate meetups that they have in Peachtree City, the Coweta Fayette Real Estate Meetup. Plenty of things to check out with that real estate team for you guys to help hit your real estate goals. And as always, we're sponsored by PrayStation at PrayStation Online for the best gaming and faith/worship collab that's on the market. You remember it is the praying hands in the logo of the in the colors of the PlayStation logo. I need to get a new lower third made so we can flash the graphic and the promo code at PrayStation Online, PRAY Station Online. Use code AJL at checkout, whether you want to put that logo on a sticker, a hat, a shirt, a hoodie, some sweats, whatever the case is, they can put it for you on a product. Again, appreciate everybody being tapped in on episode 84. Y'all continue to get in the comments as it is the most activity that we've had by far in the comments in a while. The Bills beat the Lions 48-42 in the potential game of the year, but I'm not here to necessarily talk about the game, but I'm here to talk about Josh Allen looking like and just about already securing his first MVP award. And I'm so happy for Josh Allen. This is a guy who, for multiple seasons, I sound like Chris Collinsworth out here, 30-plus touchdowns passing, 38 touchdowns, 37, 35, 34, 33, I believe, last year. You just continue to see the years over years of 30 to 35-plus touchdown passes, and it's great. But what was the problem with Josh Allen? The Bills were too dependent on him, which meant that he was turning the ball over at an alarming rate. You could have argued that Josh Allen last year could have been the MVP with 44 total touchdowns. But he also had 22 total turnovers, 18 interceptions to his 29 touchdown passes. And then he also had his 4 fumbles that he lost as well. I think many more fumbles were actually occurred in that season. But we know that Josh Allen has been capable of this, type of play for a while now. We know that. He's got one of the best arms in the NFL. He can throw a great deep ball. He's extremely accurate. We know he is built like a Cam Newton. I have said it for years. Josh Allen is an elite Cam Newton who can pass the football at a high level and who's about to win his MVP, just like Cam was able to as well. So there's no question about Josh Allen actually having the tangibles to be able to win this MVP. the knowledge, the football IQ, the swag, the vibe to win MVP. Because we know that. He'll come out, he'll run over you, he'll run past you. I mean, Josh Allen is one of the most electric, fun players to watch in this league. And for the, last few years, you've wondered, when is the MVP coming? But everybody's knock is the turnovers, the turnovers, the turnovers, the turnovers. And we knew when Josh Allen first came into the league with the Bills, he looked bad. He was rough. But the turnaround, the growth from him, absolutely amazing. And now he is on his way, skyrocketing from minus 400 to minus 1,000 after his last 2 weeks in the NFL. The first player ever in NFL history with 3 passing touchdowns and 3 rushing touchdowns. As it is not enough, as the Bills defense led up 44 points to the Los Angeles Rams. Josh Allen comes back in the next game, 2 more passing touchdowns, 2 more rushing touchdowns for a total of 854 yards total, 10 touchdowns, no sacks, no turnovers. That's never been done in NFL history, along with his 3 touchdowns on each side between passing and rushing a couple weeks back against the Rams. 400 plus yards, 4 plus touchdowns, no sacks, no interceptions, no fumbles. It's only been done twice in NFL history, and Josh Allen has done it in back-to-back weeks. How is that not enough to run away with the MVP? Because when you look at Josh this year, and you look at the fact that he's got 33 total touchdowns to 5 total, or excuse me, I feel like I have that wrong. Let me fact check that because I want to be correct. I want to be able to give this man his flowers. Is it 36? I think it might be 36 total touchdowns. I'm pulling up his game log or his stats. Y'all give me 1 second. 25 touchdowns, 5 picks. Okay, yes. Josh Allen has a total of 36 touchdowns to 5 interceptions this year. Compared to his 36 touchdowns this year to his 5 turnovers. Josh Allen has fumbled 1 time this year, and he hasn't lost a fumble, according to ESPN. If you take that and you take those 36 touchdowns, wait a second. Is that right? 36 touchdowns over 14 games. Okay, excuse me. So Josh Allen, I was doing some math here. Josh Allen is on pace for a 44 touchdown season again, but with a 4th just about of the turnovers overall that he had last year. Josh Allen had 18 interceptions last year. He's got 5 now. And to talk about those multiple 30 touchdown years, 37 touchdowns passing, 36 touchdowns passing, 35 touchdowns passing, 29 touchdowns passing, 25 this year. Josh Allen is also on pace for 30 passing touchdowns again. And when you look at his rushing numbers also, he's on pace for another 13 rushing touchdowns. So again, right in line with that 44 touchdown year. I love the fact that Josh Allen is playing at this level. Yes, Lamar looks great. Yes, Saquon Barkley looks great. But there is nobody out there that is playing to the level of Josh Allen's play. And he's beat the Chiefs, he's beat the Niners, and he's beat the Lions in 3 of his last 4 victories and should have beat the Rams with his historic 6-touchdown game. I know the Chiefs and the Niners aren't necessarily impressive wins. Chiefs are still 12-1, best record in the NFL. I know that they're a little fraudulent with the way that they've looked and played this year. And the Niners might be under 500, but the Niners are still they're not an easy out. You're talking about a Kyle Shanahan-led team, albeit the roster is what it is this year. But that's very impressive from Josh Allen. The Bills have 8 straight games of 30-plus points offensively. That is engineered by Josh Allen. Josh Allen has his Bills in a great position. And they can maybe go and win it all this year. They're flirting with the Eagles. They're flirting with the Chiefs. They're flirting with the Lions. They're flirting with the Steelers. They're flirting with the Ravens. And they look better than almost all of them at this point in the NFL season. Josh Allen is on his way to win his first ever MVP. And I'm glad. I'm glad that there's not going to be any sort of voter fatigue here. I'm glad that there's not going to be any sort of possibly Lamar Jackson stealing it from him, because I don't know how Josh couldn't win it. Congratulations, Bills fans. You have an MVP quarterback, have had an MVP quarterback in your hands, but you have the official award coming down the pipeline for him, and Josh Allen deserves it more than anybody in the league right now. My New Orleans Saints lose to the Washington Commanders 20-19 after a failed 2-point try to end the game. I haven't talked about the Saints since they fired Dennis Allen. I know it's been a little bit of a inconsistent show over the last few weeks, just doing my best to give you guys the content as much as I can. But yes, the Saints do lose to the Commanders 20-19 after a failed 2-point conversion to end the football game. And what's crazy is that 2-point conversion was drawn up nice, but our quarterback was Spencer Rattler, and the rest was history. So Darren Rizzi now is 3-2 as a head coach, showing us more of his potential head coaching candidacy week in and week out. And honestly, I like what Darren Rizzi's showing us. I really do. He comes out and he beats the Falcons. He comes out and he beats the Browns in the Jameis revenge game. Loses to the Rams, all things considered. Able to squeak out a win against the Giants, and then he almost could have squeaked out a win here against not the Panthers, the Commanders as well. Rizzi's energy is great. He's a motivator. He holds people accountable. He's not a bullshitter at all. He doesn't give a damn really what your response is to his coaching, because he is a leader of men. He demands respect, and that's something that Dennis Allen could not do. So in those terms, Rizzi's doing great. He's doing the best he could. He's coached 5 games. He's won 3 of them. Had a chance to win 4. You lost to a Welch-coached team in the Rams, which nobody expected you to win. Nobody expected you to win this game or even come close to this game. It looks like it's getting out of hand. 14-0 at the half. Terry McLaurin, both touchdown catches. Jaden Daniels looking absolutely great. And you got to give the Saints credit for going down 14-0 and then making it a 20-19 game while having the chance to win on a 2-point try that had a very good play drawn up for it. Again, our quarterback's name is Spencer Rattler, so go figure. You get 8 sacks on Jaden Daniels, albeit the Commanders were missing their center. Tyler Biadasz, I think is how you Biadasz, I think is how you pronounce his last name. Roast me all in the comments that you want, Commanders fans, but I'm doing my best there. And the Saints blew up the run game defensively outside of Jaden Daniels' 11 carries for 65 yards, which ended up leading the Commanders for rushing. But the tragic flaw in this game was Jake Haener getting the start after Derek Carr, breaks his hand, more than likely out for the year. And he just looked awful in the first half. I mean, I knew this guy was a whiff when we first drafted him out of Fresno State, because Fresno State doesn't really produce winners at the quarterback position, and we've seen that. And he hasn't shown much despite what Rattler has or hasn't shown us. This isn't a chance to, let's sit here and compare because we know Rattler looked right. No. Jake Haener starting that game single-handedly lost the Saints that game. Darren Rizzi's decision to say that Jake Haener was the best quarterback to play that game for the Saints lost us that football game. It is what it is. Spencer Rattler had a much better second half. He comes right out of the gate, leads us to a scoring drive. Throws a touchdown at the end of the game to get it tied. Had a chance to throw the winning 2-point conversion. I mean, what more do you want from a guy? You're down 14-0 and you go on a you go on a 19-6 run, potentially a 21-6 run to win the game. So you can't be mad at what Rattler was able to come in and do. Be mad at the fact that Haener played the way that he did. Shouldn't be a New Orleans Saint for much longer. And the fact that Darren Rizzi thought that was the right move. You had the Marshawn Lattimore revenge game, which was nothing really to be seen. There were no targets thrown his way the entire game. I'm sure that was the game plan the whole time, was let's not give this man a chance to have a revenge game. And he's one of the premier corners in the league. Boy, was it weird seeing Marshawn Lattimore as a Washington Commander, though. I mean, I still struggle with it, man. I still struggle with the fact that we only have one player left from that legendary 2017 Saints draft class. I still struggle with that. Just to see Marshawn as a Commander. And then for him to go out and say, I'm going to show them why they shouldn't have traded me away. Boy, we put you in a good position. Don't even play. Don't even play like that. Saints held to 69 rushing yards. Kamara had 5 carries for 12 yards. I really hope he's okay with the groin injury. We see him go out in the fourth quarter. Bad game plan from the Saints, though. I mean, 5 carries, 12 yards. Yes, clearly the Commanders were doing something well enough to stall your run game, but you really were depending on Jake Haener or Spencer Rattler to do something for you here. No, not at all. So I really hope AK is okay from the groin injury. Jaden Daniels, want to give him some credit. He became the third rookie in NFL history to have thrown for over 3,000 passing yards and rushed for over 600 yards. He joins Cam Newton and RG3 as the only other players to do so in the sport. And clearly that Saints special team curse is still alive and well for opponents. I couldn't find the stat specifically, but I think it's something like opponents are 2 for 8 on field goals versus the Saints since Darren Rizzi was promoted after Dennis Allen got fired. Something to that effect there. So just absolutely crazy to see and be happy to know that Darren Rizzi, whatever you want to say or not say about it, that effect is prominent in the NFL. The Saints do have to be better on late downs as well. They were 3 for 11 converting third downs in this game, and then they were 1 for 1 on fourth down. But on defense, they let up 9 for 17 on third down, which is about 50% compared to the 25% that they went on offense. And then they allowed the one and only fourth down attempt to be converted as well for the Washington Commanders. I would say some promising parts of this game are it was nice to see Kendre Miller out of the doghouse, 9 carries for 51 yards in the absence of Alvin Kamara. He seems to be promising if he can actually stay healthy, if there's an offensive game plan that can actually be included for him. So there will be more to be desired in that aspect. No question about that. And, Spencer Rattler's second half was good, all things considered. He was able to come in, throw a touchdown pass, not have any turnovers, not have any interceptions, which was really great to see. And, really just show that he's learning as he's going through his career in the NFL, being a New Orleans Saint, kind of being in and out of this lineup. He was an emergency backup, I think, at one point. And then, Haener ended up being the guy who was going to start. Then Rattler does come in after Haener's awful first half. So I believe Spencer Rattler should be that guy that starts for the next 3 games to finish out the year, barring that, again, Derek Carr is going to miss the rest of the season, which the Saints season is far gone. So I don't see why you would want to, risk that anymore with Derek Carr. Realistically, you're already financially bound to him. So it's not like there's, I guess, any more for him to play for if you know that just about he's going to be your quarterback next year. But, it'd be nice to see Spencer Rattler be able to roll outside of the pocket a little more like we did in the Bucs game. He was the most passing yards by a Saints quarterback outside of the pocket on the run since Next Gen Stats became a thing. So that is something that he could bring to the offense more consistently and just provide some more juice with his legs. But at the end of the day, this is overall still, more than not a piss poor football team with a shaky front office, a respectable head coach now, but still a cap situation that's from hell. The injuries have piled up, and we don't have a quarterback who can help us compete. So that's about the state of the New Orleans Saints there. Mari, Emery, I hope like hell y'all are still in the comments with me because we are now chopping up. The Falcons are benching Kirk Cousins, starting Michael Penix, and this has the NFL world talking all different types of way about Atlanta, about Kirk, about MPJ, and everything that has to do with it in between. And let's just call it what it is. Kirk Cousins' arm looks like it's absolutely died at this point for the Atlanta Falcons. It looked like he might have got hurt in that Vikings game after a hit that he took. He got up holding his arm a little bit. Didn't really look like he was the same after that. You look at his interceptions after the Falcons were able to start 6-3. And the fact that they did go on that 4-game losing streak, his interceptions just look very poorly anticipated. Like he's almost pump faking and then throwing right to the defender, or throwing just late to where it's going right to the defender. And they're just ugly interceptions at the end of the day. And the last 5 games, Kirk Cousins has thrown 9 interceptions to 1 touchdown after throwing 17 touchdowns to 7 interceptions to start the season. Atlanta going 1-4 down the stretch after starting 6-3, and now it lands them at 7-7. So the biggest aspect or question for me is this the right move considering the timing of the season? Because you just now got back to 500. You were 7-7 again. You were on that 4-game losing streak from 6-3 to 6-7. So after you look like you can win the division, after it looks like you run the division, after it looks like you're one of the best in the NFC, it looks like Kirk's signing is great, all this starts happening. And now you fall to 7-7. Now you are 500. Now you are kind of back in the division race and in the playoffs race, but it still looks like it's going to be Tampa's to win, especially with the way they just played the Chargers. I don't think it's the right move considering the timing. Now, the timing for the games that they're going to play, they're about to play the Giants, the Commanders, and the Panthers. All winnable games. But here's my question. Here's the dilemma you face. If Michael Penix comes out and looks otherworldly, or not even, if you just come out and win these next 3 games, are you expecting a rookie with 3 NFL starts to possibly get you to the postseason with a 10-7 record out of the NFC South, if that's even doable? Because that's the dilemma the Atlanta Falcons have put themselves in. It's weird to take your number 8 overall pick and start him when you're 7-7. When the season still has some meat on the bone. Now, yes, I understand, again, over those last 5 weeks, after Kirk Cousins, again, started out with 69% completion, 2,328 yards, 17 touchdowns, 7 picks, and a 102 QBR, he has since thrown for 63% completion, 1,180 yards, so 1,180 yards, 1 touchdown, 9 interceptions, and a 64 quarterback rating. So I get all that, right? It's very clear that there's something wrong with Kirk Cousins. There's no question about that, right? He's looked bad. His arm looks like it's died. But you feel like, and he kind of, I guess went down the rabbit hole at the wrong part of the season because he was looking solid for weeks 1 through 9. And then ever since week 10, it just hasn't been anything. It kind of does put you in an interesting spot because it's like, would you have benched Kirk after just 2 games, after 3 games? I think after 3 games, all right, after this, we've got 5 games for the rest of the season. At that point, you're sitting at, 6-5. So you're still slightly above 500. I don't know. It's a very weird situation for the Falcons to be in. But the biggest glaring aspect of everything is the fact that you brought Kirk in and you paid him that money, because the Falcons are on the hook for most of his salary next season if he doesn't play for them, which is about $26 million. The Falcons owe Cousins $27.5 million guaranteed in 2025. If he's on their roster on the 5th day of the 2025 league year, which hits March 16th of next year, they'll owe him another $10 million in early 2026 roster bonus per a source with knowledge of the contract. Kirk Cousins also has a full no trade clause. The Falcons can spread out that $27.5 million guaranteed in 2025 if they use the post 2024. They can spread out his post 2024 salary cap hits by designating him a post June 1 release, so they can release him after June 1st. Such a move after 2024 will result in a dead cap of $40 million. The record for this is $49.5 million for the Denver Broncos when they let go of Russell Wilson. But it wouldn't negatively impact Atlanta's 2025 salary cap resources to go out and sign players or to pay people. So it doesn't limit you in that aspect. But it's the fact that if Kirk Cousins is moved on from after this year with the Atlanta Falcons, the Atlanta Falcons just paid Kirk Cousins top 5, top 3 quarterback money per year at $62.5 million for 14 starts or 9 months of the Kirk Cousins era in Atlanta. That's the part that damns Atlanta. That's the part that makes them look silly, because it wasn't the fact that you even necessarily paid Kirk what you did. Because it's $45 million a year. Kirk is consistently a top 10 to 12 quarterback in the NFL. His number shows that, and everyone's discussed Kirk in that type of aspect. It's not even so much the fact that you decide to bench Michael Penix. Because we see Caleb Williams, number 1 pick, league high 58 sacks. Michael Penix is learning from the sidelines. Number 3 pick, Drake May. He started in week 6 for the Patriots, but he's been under pressure on 14 drop packs per game, which is not far off of the 15.2 that Caleb Williams is seeing on the league high 213 pressures per Next Gen Stats. Appreciate that info there. So it makes sense as to why the Falcons sat Michael Penix. it made sense as to why the Falcons signed Kirk Cousins, because they just went through 3 straight 7 and 10 years of Desmond Ridder, Arthur Smith, Taylor Heineke, the end of Matt Ryan, whatever the hell else. They just went through all that. They wanted someone to come in and be able to accurately deliver the football to a Bijan Robinson, to a Kyle Pitts, to a Drake London, to a Ray McLeod, to a Darnell Mooney. Because it's been proven when the Falcons could easily deliver or just simply deliver the football in those aspects, that they were good. They were fine. Atlanta was one of the best passing offenses we had seen. But the gamble has now come full circle. Because you ask the question, if you don't trust a veteran of 13 years with a 500 record in the division right outside your grasp to win against the Giants, Commanders, and Panthers to get right for the playoffs, do you really trust Kirk Cousins for the rest of his contract? Do you trust him beyond 2024? Are you going to expect Michael Penix to take you through a playoff run? It's a weird situation because it's like, do you get pissed about the money they paid? Well, you can't necessarily. And I'm going to address the injury part. Kirk Cousins had missed one game due to injury in his 130-plus eligible starts in the NFL. The only other miss was because of COVID. So he missed 2 out of, let's say, 135, 140 starts in this league. And yes, I understand the Achilles injury is not like any other injury out there. So you had to be careful. But Kirk before had showed extremely healthy. Now he looks like a statue. He doesn't want to move outside the pocket. And now his arm looks dead. So it's like the gamble that kind of rightfully didn't look like a gamble now is not paying off. You don't really get mad about them paying him that much money because, 160, 180 million, that sounds like a lot. It's $45 million a year. Kirk is consistently top 10 to 12. Look at the contracts that are floating around the league for a quarterback. It's that simple. But it's the timing to where I think people are going to get on Atlanta for this. The timing does not make sense. You have an opportunity to let Kirk get right and to possibly let you get into the playoffs, but you're going to trust a rookie who's been named the starter moving forward, and it's a football decision per your head coach to possibly make it right for you. It's the timing that I don't agree with at all. At all. The way that the timing can play out is what could possibly fuck Atlanta really bad. Because I feel like the only way it could look good for them, you draft Michael Penix, you let him sit, you have Kirk Cousins, you play him, he's good. If he comes out, you play him, he's hurt. Michael Penix comes in and he plays well. I feel like anything outside of that, it's a bad look. You draft him, he plays bad because he's still hurt or he's just bad, and then Penix comes in and he plays bad. That looks horrible. That looks horrible. So the only good outcome was Kirk plays well, or if he doesn't, Penix comes in and he plays well. Now you're up against the money, potentially paying $63 million a year for a quarterback who only got 14 starts or 9 months with your franchise. And now you're starting the number 8 pick, 3 weeks left in the season, at a 500 record, with a chance to get to the playoffs and win the division. Again, that's where it doesn't make sense to me. But Falcons fans, I want to hear from y'all. Get in the chat, please. Get in the comments. Let me know what you think of the Falcons benching Kirk Cousins and signing Michael Penix. This has been episode 84 of the NFL with AJL. I appreciate everybody tapping into the show here on a Wednesday. You could have read anywhere else in the world, but you were right here with us. Please make sure to like and share that stream wherever you may be watching. Subscribe on YouTube. Hit the bell so you never miss a post. The QR code, of course, will give you every bit of social media and podcast content. If you can't find us, you're simply not looking hard enough. Hope you guys have a Merry Christmas Eve, a Merry Christmas if I don't see you guys before then. Again, hope December has been great. I appreciate you guys tuning into the show. As always, love you guys, need you guys, and I will see y'all in the next one.